Scientology. Entre todas as novas religiões aqui da América, a que faz mais barulho e que se autodefine como centro de celebridades. Fundada nos anos 50 por Ron Hubbard, um escritor de livros B de ficção científica, ela se tornou não só a igreja dos famosos, como Tom Cruise e John Travolta, mas um negócio de bilhões de dólares com rede em mais de 150 países. Vamos conhecer as verdades e mentiras da religião mais comentada do momento. Vamos entrar na igreja e conversar com o Papa. You're president of the International Scientology Church.
Yes.
You were, if you were Catholic, you were like a pope. Am I talking to the Pope?
I hope not.
What is Scientology?
Well, Scientology is a religion, and it has very exact principles which recognizes that you are a spiritual being. And by applying these very specific principles, you understand who you are as a spiritual being, you understand your relationship to other people, you understand your relationship to the physical universe. Scientology is a way, it's something which you do. Now, it's not that idea of materialists who sort of hold the idea that you're the product of your genes or you're the product of your environment. By applying those very specific principles to you, you understand life and you can find out who you really are.
Let's explain to the audience who is Ron Hubbard.
L. Ron Hubbard, well, he's a fascinating man. First of all, he's an incredible author.
He was a writer, right?
He was a writer.
Pulp Fiction.
Oh, he did the Pulp Fiction. He wrote adventure stories, love stories, westerns, some science fiction, that sort of thing. But you know, his interest was always in mankind and the spirit. So when he was a very young man, he went to India, he went to China. In fact, he studied the whole spiritual side of man there. And he came back to America. He was only 15 then, by the way. He came back to America and he went to George Washington University and they were teaching the very basics of nuclear physics. And he said, well, what is it? Is it the spiritual East or is it the material scientific West? And he married the two concepts together. And he said, Scientology has to be something which works. A philosophy has to work. He was an engineer by study, so that's why he then went into working out what became Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard, well, he solved the problems of drugs, he solved the problems of crime, he solves the problems of illiteracy, among many other things.
You were from Utah?
I was from Utah.
Your father is a priest?
No, he was a Mormon.
Mormon? Oh, okay.
An old-style Mormon called a fundamentalist. And he believed that you had to have many wives and many children. So he had many wives, he had 8. And I am one of 42 children. And by the time I had gotten to college and by the time I was drafted in the Army, I started seeing there was something called Scientology. I studied it for a while, I followed it. And then in 1967 in Las Vegas, Nevada, I said, that's what I'm going to do. That's my time.
And now, are you a priest?
No, I am a minister, and I am ordained as a minister. And in Scientology, you study extensively to become a minister because you learn to counsel another person, to deal with the problems of the mind, the upsets, the pain and the trauma of the past. And by doing that, you help another person. And there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it because in Scientology, it's so precise. And you see that person change before your eyes. And when a person starts to realize more of himself, then you see that in another person. And you can't put a price on that. You can't put a price on that.
And
it's marvelous.
What are the principles, the moral values of Scientologist church?
Well, we believe that there's certain inalienable rights, that a person, all people of whatever race, color, or creed, are created with equal rights. I think that's very important. And we feel that a person has an inalienable right to his own sanity. We believe that the laws of God forbid man to destroy his own kind, to destroy the sanity of another.
Do you believe in God?
Absolutely. Scientology holds that there is a supreme being We don't tell people what that is because people have different ideas of it. But we find in Scientology that as you become more aware, as you become more spiritually aware, you start to reach for greater understanding of who the Supreme Being is and what it means to you. Mr. Hubbard in 1951 wrote about that, and he said any civilization that does not recognize the Supreme Being or God is a civilization. They've lost their morals, they've lost their ethics, and they deteriorate. It's extremely important.
As a religion, do you guys have sins?
Sins, I'm sorry.
Sins.
Sins.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I think the world is sins. There are things that one can do that are negative. And, you know, if you're destroying someone else's business, or if you can have sins against yourself, drugs, or giving someone else drugs, and those limit your ability in life.
But the sins are in the principles of the religion, or like the Catholics, they have, don't do this, don't do that, or, you know.
Yeah, we basically say that a person survives on 8 dynamics of existence. These are part of life. Survival for yourself as a person. Mm-hmm. Survival on second is your family and your children. 3rd is your group. 4th is all of mankind. And then 5th is all living things. The 6th dynamic is the material universe. This room we live in, this planet, and so forth, the air we breathe. And then the 7th is you as a spiritual being. And the 8th, the highest, is the Supreme Being. So you can, if you do things against those 8 dynamics, those are the sins.
There is a confession, there is this kind of ritual.
There is a confession, or as we say, there's counseling, and you look at those moments. That's what I like, is that in Scientology, you can look at those moments, and you're not stuck with those by viewing exactly what you did.
You don't work with guilty. With this feeling of guilty. There's no such a feeling in the...
Well, a person does feel that to a certain degree, yes, but he doesn't always have to feel that because he can look at what that was, and once he looks at what that particular sin is, if you wish to call it that, he then is free of that guilt.
Let's talk about a little bit of the rituals.
Yes.
What rituals the church has?
Well, we have the naming ceremonies, you know, for our children when they're born. And we also have the marriage, and we also have the funeral services. I've done many marriage.
For instance, can you do a marriage with gay people?
I don't prefer to. I think that's something that they would have to choose.
If they choose?
Huh?
If they could choose?
No, Scientology recognizes that the people who have come to me have always been people who wanted to marry a woman. I think it's much happier life myself to marry a woman.
There is this concept about hell and heaven.
We don't necessarily treat it that way. I think we see we study the Christian religion to become a minister of the Church of Scientology, and we don't have any argument with the Catholic or the Christian view of that. But we do see that, you know, as a Scientologist, one can understand that if you're terribly destructive, you know, well, it does affect you. You live a more desperate life. Uh-huh. But you live a much happier life if you're productive and assisting people in their life.
What are the most common criticisms that people do about the church?
Scientology? Mm-hmm. I think that the criticism, it's interesting. They say, well, why is it that, I get asked one of the criticisms, why is it that you are so strong on drugs? Because we find it destructive. Or can people leave Scientology?
They say it's a very expensive church. Is it?
It is not. But
it is not.
Let me clarify that, because that's one of the questions that you run into. Uh-huh. I mean, a person can come in and the services are free. He has church services every Sunday. There are lectures. We don't charge for the weddings or for funerals or for the christening or we say naming ceremonies. In fact, for the people down there who are listening to this, pick up a book, Dianetics. It's in Portuguese. Find out for yourself. Uh-huh. Read it, apply it, and you can find out that it works for yourself.
So it's not a church just for rich people?
No, not at all. Not with 8 million members. Not with us being in 115 countries. We're in India. We're in many countries in which people are not, they're not rich. But I also find that people who become members, they become more able, they earn more money.
This is the emitter.
Yes.
This is a technique that you guys use. Or what is this?
This is a religious artifact. We call it an Electro Psychometry. And what it does, it helps the auditor, the person who is counseling, auditor meaning one who listens, find the areas of aberration, the things that are bothering the person. And it's a guide. You're holding these, and there's a small electrical current that comes through your body. Very, very tiny, as much as in this watch. Okay?
I didn't know this watch has an, okay.
It does have a little tiny battery in it.
Yes, the battery.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
It's the same amount.
And
Now,
then?
around your body is a electrical field. When you think of something that is bothering you, it has energy. It comes in, and this will show that this is something that is bothering you, okay? Around your body is this electrical field. That's your mind.
Okay.
Now, if you say, oh, I had this accident once, and I remember the car, and I was unconscious, and this picture of it, you would see it in your mind. And it comes in here, and this little field of electricity, this shows the resistance. It says, oh, here is something. This picture, it picks up because it's pushing in.
And what happens here? It goes like...
No, it stops, and I mean, you may find then that this needle will start to go across like this. It shows more and more resistance. It is a very sophisticated religious artifact, and we've had one for now, let's see, I'd say 48 years.
Wow.
Almost 48 years. But, of course, they evolved, and there are better models and so forth. And
It's so funny when you call this religious.
Because the only thing...
It doesn't look religious to me, but it's okay. I can understand.
But, you know, it's the only thing which deals with you as a human spirit. And the fact that you can find a thought, and the thought will measure and be found. It doesn't tell you what it is, but the fact that a thought, whoever thought before that a thought had energy, that you could find that there was a thought, and that thought could be tied into some aberration or so forth. That's what's unique. That's what's fascinating.
You have an industry to do this, or you buy this?
No, we do it
Where
ourselves.
Where it come from? You do?
We do it ourselves.
And you sell to people? Can I buy one?
No. By the laws of the United States, the only person who can use this is a minister of the Church of Scientology.
For instance, I am the minister, you have a problem.
Okay.
Okay? Whatever is your problem. So I have the...
But you don't tell me what it is.
I don't.
You have to find out what it is.
I will. So
okay.
I have this emitter here. You are holding those two things.
With electrodes.
Electrodes. And little by little you're going to come up with your problem.
Yes, you're going to help me. You're going to help me find it.
I will help you find, and I will see in the emitter that.
That's right.
After this, I say, that's your problem.
No, you don't tell me.
I wouldn't say that.
You wouldn't get to tell me. No, there's a code. You don't tell the person what it is.
Oh.
You don't evaluate for him.
You don't judge.
You don't judge. You say, here's something. What is that? I mean, it's hard to describe all of that.
Sure,
and then I say, well, gee, I don't know. You say, well, take a look.
Yeah, let's go
Let's look at that. And then I would look, and I said, whoa, I never looked at that before. Gee, you said, what is that? And I would tell you what that was.
I understand. So you
would listen, which you do very well. I am I, Don Quixote, the Lord of La Mancha. My destiny calls and I go. That sort of thing.
Oh, that's good. You should sing in the church.
Once in a while.
To cheer up
Once in a
people.
while.
And this is Hollywood sign.
Right there.
This
right
church
there.
is so much connected with Hollywood that some people call it Saint Hollywood.
They do?
They do. Didn't you didn't know that?
Maybe once I've heard that. But the point is there are many celebrities and people in the creative arts who are involved in Scientology. Because Mr. Hubbard said, I mentioned once, the culture is as great as its dreams, and its dreams are dreamed by artists. And he said, they create the future. They put their ideas into the culture.
So what is the Celebrity Center? What is
It was
this?
something that he decided to establish as a church for celebrities back, I think, 1969. And I was one of the original people who came in at that time. My wife was the one who really founded it at that time. She passed away in later years. But his idea was, you see, creative people, artists, are spiritual and are communicators.
What the famous people you have in the Celebrity Center?
Well, there's John Travolta, people have heard of him. There's Priscilla Presley, certainly Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, wonderful jazz pianist Chick Corea, the Isaac Hayes, who was a wonderful musician, who was first African American to win an Academy Award. You probably know him for the music he did with Shaft, right? And we are not going to try to sing that.
Oh, come on, just a little bit.
No, we are not. We're not. But I mean, these are the well-known people. But then there's the writers, and there are people who do the scenery. There are people who do the sound, the lighting, the cameraman. It's a whole creative.
So is a church related with the showbiz? Yes.
Yes, because we help people in the show business field.
And because this is what Hollywood is about, right?
Hollywood is about dreams. It's about dreams and people who want to achieve their dreams. Scientology helps them achieve those dreams even more than what they've dreamed before.
So, Saint Hollywood.
Scientology.
The church helps people to deal with their own ambition.
Yeah.
Because in some religions, the ambition is something that you don't, it's a subject that you don't touch that much.
Is that right? You hold it down.
Yeah.
No, you help
Here
the
is
person.
the opposite.
Yes. He wants to be a better communicator. He wants to be a better actor. He wants to be a better writer. And there are things that probably stop
You want
that.
more money or whatever, it doesn't matter. This is not something that the church says, oh, this is not good.
No, one says, you know, one should survive in life. It shouldn't be that people are always poor. People can live better lives. There's nothing wrong with being more able in life. You find that people who do make more money help other people. So that's something which you'll see in Scientology.
Do you have fee for the auditing?
Pardon? Fees?
Yes.
Yes, there is a fixed contribution because, you know, all churches have either tithes or they have pew rents or they have things like that. And in Scientology, we have donations for those services, and that's how the church is supported. We have to pay for buildings and lights and so forth. So that's
Do you
how it's
pay
done.
tax?
The church doesn't pay tax. It pays certain taxes, like anyone else or any other church. But we're the same as other churches, so if they pay taxes on things, we do the same.
It's the same.
Yes.
I see. How many auditings do you have to do to, you know, usually people do like 12 or 24 or...
You mean hours or so forth?
Yeah.
Well,
And how much does it cost?
Well, as I say, if you're counseling another person, you learn to do that.
Yeah.
You're trained as a trained minister. It's very inexpensive. But a person might spend a great deal if, as I said before, he wants to have the best counselor that his time. Using all that staff and so forth, that costs more. Is it expensive, some say? As I said, people who spent money on it, I did. I never felt that it was something that was expensive. For me to understand and to be able to know what life is about.
It's priceless.
It's priceless to me.
Okay, so I can spend $100,000 and it's worth it.
Well, yes, you could spend that much over a period of time, but if you did a comparable, it's $50,000 a year to go to UCLA out here. Yes. If you're putting someone through all of that, they spend as much as $50,000 a year. Or if you spent $50,000 at another college for 4 or 5 years, you wouldn't spend that much in Scientology counseling and learning how to help another person.
In the middle of the criticism, they say that everything costs a lot here. You know, it's the prices are, and some say the prices are really hot here, really high, but they worth it.
Well, that's interesting. I had a number of Scientologists who contributed a great deal. And by the way, I have friends in the Catholic Church, and I have friends of my family in the Catholic Church, through my wife, who are major contributors to the Catholic Church. I've talked to Scientologists who have given a great deal to the church, and they've said to me, if someone said I could give you back everything you contributed, but you would have to be the way you were before, I said never.
We talked about the positive aspects.
And we talked about some of the negatives.
Yes, some of them.
But you know what's interesting?
But you know what? People say, no, some I read, for instance, they say, oh, they brainwashing, and this is, what else they say? Brainwashing.
Well, brainwashing is interesting because that's I think that's people who have dirty minds who'd like to have them washed. We don't, no, we wake people up. I mean, Scientology deals with you're wide awake during counseling. You don't have any liquor or anything like that. There are no drugs involved. The person is fully awake. He's fed well. He's slept well. In fact, all of those are conditions in which a counseling session occurs. So no. We would not have grown to 8 million members around the world in just over 40 years. We would not have ourselves located in 115 countries. The works of Mr. Hubbard are available to anyone. I say this, look, get a book. Read it yourself, make up your own mind. Not what you and I say here, whatever this turns into, let them make up their own mind.
And we've taken 150,000 people off of drugs very effectively, the most effective program in the world. That's another thing Mr. Hubbard had discovered and worked on.
And how do you do that? What is the method?
Okay, the method is a very specific regimen. Yes. It involves exercise. It involves
physical exercise.
You would love this. And
I'm good at that.
Sauna.
Good.
And then a very specific regimen of vitamins. There are large amounts of vitamins. And what it does, it cleans out the residual drugs, because he found that there was cocaine, heroin stays in the fatty tissues of the body.
This is the physical stuff, but what about the psycho part, because the need of drugs is provoked by something else.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right.
So.
And you're saying something which a lot of people don't know, but that is true. And it's provoked by a tiny amount that stays in the fatty tissues of the body. And what Mr. Hubbard discovered was you could get rid of that.
What you defend is to be free of the worst of within yourself, that is inside of yourself.
I think that's fair. Yes. Absolutely. I think that's fair.
Okay, the best of yourself, to bring up the best of you.
And to increase the best of yourself.
To increase the best of yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a different approach from some other religions.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. But all religions have talked about the freedom of the spirit, and they have kept the hope of that in mankind alive for many centuries.
But what is the difference between this religion and the others?
Oh my, you want me to get into controversy. Let me just say, I was sitting in a room once with ministers of different faiths, and they said, tell me, Reverend Jentzsch, who has the true faith? What is the true faith? And I said, you know what? Each one of us in this room is thinking, mine. And they said, yes, you're absolutely right.